The first thing my new roommate said to me was, "You won't last a week living with me." She said it before hello, before her name, before I had even set down the box of dishes I was carrying. I stood in the doorway of apartment 3C with rain on my jacket, cardboard in my arms, and the strong suspicion that my housing situation had just developed teeth. The woman in front of me sat in a sleek black wheelchair near the kitchen island, one hand resting on the push rim, the other holding a mug that said, "Not your inspiration," in chipped blue letters. She had dark hair cut just below her shoulders, sharp green eyes, and the kind of face that made you notice her before you noticed anything else. Not because she looked delicate, she didn't. She looked like she had already survived several versions of people's bad behavior and was bored by the idea of surviving mine too. I glanced behind me at the hallway, then back at her. "Well," I said, "that saves me from asking if the room is still available." Her eyebrow lifted. Most people probably apologized right there, or laughed nervously, or said something too cheerful like "challenge accepted," which would have made them sound like they were auditioning for a motivational poster. I did none of that, mostly because I was too tired. My name is Owen Mercer. I was 31, newly relocated to Portland, and 3 hours earlier my sublet had collapsed because the landlord's minor plumbing issue turned out to be water pouring through the ceiling like the building was trying to cleanse itself. A coworker knew a woman renting out a room. That woman was apparently waiting for me with a warning label and caffeine. "I'm serious," she said. "I believe you." "No, you don't." I shifted the box against my hip. "I believe most people who threaten me before introductions." Her mouth twitched, almost a smile, not quite. "I'm Elise," she said. "Owen." "I know, you texted." "I did." "You used punctuation." "I apologize." "Don't. It helped me identify you as someone who owns at least one bookshelf." I looked past her into the apartment. It was bright, clean, and extremely lived in. Wide pathways between furniture, lower kitchen shelves, a long table covered with design sketches, fabric samples, and a laptop with 3 sticky notes attached to the edge. Plants in the window, a ramp threshold leading to the small balcony. Nothing looked accidental. "This place is better organized than my entire life," I said. "That's not a high bar. You don't know my life. You showed up with dishes in a liquor store box." I glanced down. The box said "Premium Bourbon" in giant letters. "Fair." She rolled back from the island with smooth, practiced control. "Your room is down the hall, bathroom's on the right. Don't block the hallway with boxes. Don't move the small table by the door. Don't put things on the counter above the blue tape line." I followed her gaze. There was a thin strip of blue painter's tape along one section of the kitchen counter. "Blue tape line?" I asked. "Reach limit. Anything above that becomes decorative garbage." "Got it. And don't help me unless I ask." That one came sharper. I looked at her. She looked back, waiting for the expression. I knew the expression she expected because I had seen it before, not at her, at other people. The awkward face people made when they wanted credit for being considerate without doing the work of actually listening. So I just nodded. "Okay." She narrowed her eyes. "That's it?" "That's it." "No speech?" "About what?" "Respecting independence. Admiring strength. Learning so much from my bravery." I set the box down against the wall out of the hallway. I was going to ask where the silverware goes. For the first time, she actually smiled. It lasted half a second. Then she killed it. "Second drawer." "Thank you." I carried the box into the kitchen and started unloading. I could feel her watching me, not in a soft way, in a quality control way. After a minute, she said, "You didn't ask." "Ask what?" "What happened?" I put a stack of plates into the cabinet below the blue line. "To the silverware?" "To me." I turned. She said it casually, but her hand had tightened around the mug. That was when I understood the warning at the door wasn't only about living with her, it was about the first 10 minutes. The questions, the pity, the curiosity dressed up as kindness. I went back to the box. "You'll tell me if it matters." Silence. Then she said, quieter, "People usually ask. People usually touch wet paint signs too." That analogy makes me a wall. "No," I said. "It makes people bad at reading." This time she laughed. "Not much. Enough." I finished unpacking the dishes, then hauled 2 suitcases and 4 more boxes into the spare room. Elise stayed mostly in the living room, working on her laptop, but she noticed everything. When I set one box too close to the hallway, she said, "That'll be annoying at 2 in the morning." I moved it. When I placed a chair slightly angled near the table, she said, "That chair bites ankles." I straightened it. When I tried to carry 3 boxes at once and nearly introduced my face to the doorframe, she said, "Masculinity remains undefeated." I looked over my shoulder. I'm choosing to interpret that as concern. Choose harder. By 9, I had made enough progress to justify quitting. My room looked like a man had lost a fight with packaging tape. The apartment smelled faintly of rain, coffee, and the takeout Elise had ordered without asking me. 2 containers sat on the counter, one above the blue tape line. I noticed before she said anything, moved it down. Her eyes flicked from the container to me. Then away. We ate at opposite ends of the table, not because we disliked each other, because the middle was occupied by sketches of adaptive clothing designs, a measuring tape, and a terrifying number of labeled pens. "You're a designer?" I asked. "Freelance adaptive apparel, mostly custom work, some consulting." "That's impressive." Her expression immediately closed. I saw the mistake. Not because impressive was wrong, because it was too easy. Too close to the tone people used when they made her existence sound like a public service announcement. I corrected course. "Actually, no, that sounds exhausting." Her eyes lifted. "Better," she said. "I'm learning. Don't get proud. Too late." She leaned back, studying me. Then she said, "I've had 4 roommates in 3 years." I put down my fork. One lasted 11 days. One lasted 3 months but kept moving my things to help. One had a boyfriend who treated my chair like furniture and hung his jacket on the handle. My jaw tightened. She saw it. "Don't make that face." "What face?" "The I'd like to punch a stranger face." "I have a subtle face." "You really don't." I looked down at my food. "What about the fourth?" Something in her changed. The room went quieter. "He was nice," she said. That word did not sound kind in her mouth. He liked the idea of me, the jokes, the independence, the whole beautiful woman who doesn't need saving thing. She smiled without humor. Then he saw what a bad pain day looked like. Saw that sometimes the elevator in my own building breaks. Saw that spontaneity gets less romantic when you have to check accessibility first. She pushed a noodle around the container. He left a week later. There it was, the sentence under the sentence. "You won't last a week living with me." Not arrogance, memory. I didn't know what to say immediately, which was probably better than saying something fake. So I said, "That must have hurt." Her eyes moved to mine. No pity, no speech, no attempt to make it meaningful, just the truth. She looked away first. "Yeah," she said. "It did." A little after 10, I carried my empty container to the sink. The trash bin was tucked into a pull-out cabinet under the counter. I opened it, tossed the container, then noticed the cabinet didn't slide back properly. One track was loose. I crouched, checked the screw, and reached for the multi-tool in my pocket. Elise appeared behind me. "What are you doing?" "Fixing this track." "You just moved in." "It's loose now." "You don't have to fix every broken thing you see." I looked up at her. She was serious, not irritated, guarded. I understood the difference this time. "I know," I said. "But I live here now, and this drawer is annoying." She stared at me. Then something softened in her face so quickly I almost missed it. "You live here now," she repeated. "Unless the 1-week prophecy is legally binding?" Her mouth curved. "Temporary probation." "Fair." I tightened the screw, tested the cabinet, and stood. Elise was still close. Not too close. Just close enough that the air felt different. She looked up at me, and for the first time that night, the challenge in her eyes wasn't sharp. It was tired. Hopeful, maybe, like she hated that she had any hope left. Then she said, "You really think you'll last?" I should have made a joke. Instead, I looked around the apartment. The blue tape line, the open pathways, the sketches, the mug. The woman who had built a life around expecting people to leave before they learned how to stay. I don't know, I said. Her face closed a little, so I finished. But I'm not planning my exit on the first night. Elise looked at me for a long moment. Then she turned her chair toward the hallway, but not before I saw the small smile she tried to hide. Don't block the bathroom door with your boxes, she said. Good night to you too. It wasn't. No, I said, smiling, but it was close. And as she disappeared into her room, I realized the most dangerous thing about Elise Hart wasn't that living with her might be difficult. It was that I already wanted to earn the right to stay. By the third day, Elise had started testing me, not loudly, not cruelly, efficiently. She left a laundry basket in the hallway for exactly 9 minutes, then watched from the kitchen to see if I moved it without asking. I didn't. I stepped around it twice, nearly tripped once, and said, "Your basket has chosen violence." She looked up from her laptop. "And yet you survived." "Barely." It wasn't an invitation to relocate it. I gathered. The basket disappeared 5 minutes later. Test 1 apparently passed. The next morning, I made coffee and placed her mug on the island, below the blue tape line, handle angled toward her right hand. I didn't announce it. I didn't wait for praise, I just set it down and started making toast. Elise rolled into the kitchen, stopped, looked at the mug, then looked at me. "You remembered." The mug threatened me. It does that. She took a sip. I pretended not to notice the way her face softened around the steam. On day 4, she had a bad pain morning. I didn't know it at first. I only knew the apartment was too quiet. Usually Elise moved through the place with a kind of controlled momentum. Wheels over hardwood, cabinet drawers, the sharp click of her keyboard, sarcasm from whatever room she was in. That morning, nothing. At 8:30, I knocked lightly on her bedroom door. "Elise?" No answer, I waited. Then her voice came through, strained but annoyed. "If the apartment is on fire, save the coffee first." "Noted. You want breakfast?" "No." "Tea?" "No." Silence? A pause. "Yes." So I gave her silence, not the dramatic kind, the useful kind. I worked from the living room with headphones on and kept the volume low enough to hear if she called. Around 10, I made toast anyway, left it on a plate near her door, and texted her. "Outside your door, no gratitude required." 5 minutes later, "Toast is not a personality." Then, "Thank you." I stared at those 2 words longer than necessary. That afternoon, I found her in the living room wearing a loose black sweater, hair messy, face pale. She had her laptop open, but wasn't typing. "You don't have to look away," she said. I hadn't realized I was. "I wasn't trying to. You were trying not to stare." "That too," she sighed. "Pain days make people weird." "People were weird before pain." Her mouth twitched. "That is unfortunately true." I sat in the armchair across from her, not too close. "Anything need adjusting?" Her eyes narrowed. "That's a dangerous question." "I meant apartment-wise." "I know what you meant." "I'm asking because the hallway rug tried to kill me twice. If it's worse for you, I can move it." She looked at the rug, then at me. "You notice the rug?" "I have ankles and survival instincts." She was quiet for a second, then she said, "It catches the front caster if I come in at the wrong angle." I stood. "Goodbye, rug." "Owen." "What?" "You don't have to do it this second." "Yes, I do. Now I hate it personally." I rolled the rug up and leaned it by the wall. She watched me, expression unreadable. "You're making it hard to dislike you," she said. "I can put the rug back." "Don't be dramatic." "I learned from the basket." She laughed then. Not the quick, defensive kind. A real laugh. It changed her whole face. "I didn't say that. Men who say things like that too early deserve to be hit with decorative pillows." By day 5, the apartment had started to feel less like a sublet and more like a negotiation neither of us wanted to lose. We ate dinner at the table while Elise sketched a jacket design with magnetic closures. I read through job specs for a building retrofit project. Rain moved against the windows. Her chair sat angled near the corner, mine across from her, and somehow the ordinary distance between us felt more intimate than sitting side by side would have. She looked at my laptop. You work in accessibility retrofits? Not only, but this contract does. Commercial? Old office building. Terrible entry slope. Bathrooms designed by someone who believed elbows were optional. She stared at me. What? You said that like it bothers you. It should bother everyone. It doesn't. I closed the laptop halfway. Then everyone can improve. She looked down at her sketch. For a moment, she seemed younger, not weaker, just less armored. My last boyfriend used to say I made everything about access, she said. I stayed quiet. He'd say, can't we just go somewhere normal? Like normal meant a place that forgot I existed. Her mouth tightened. He thought spontaneity was romance. I thought checking whether I could get inside the building was basic planning. I felt anger again. Useful anger, but still. This time I kept it off my face. What did you say? I said he could be spontaneous with someone else. Good. She looked at me sharply. I shrugged. That sounded like the correct answer. Her eyes stayed on mine a beat too long. Then she looked away. You're dangerous when you agree with me. Then I'll go back to being wrong tomorrow. Please do. The balance is important. Later that night, I was washing dishes when Elise rolled up beside me and set her mug in the sink. Her sleeve brushed my arm. Barely. She froze. So did I. It was ridiculous. People brushed arms all the time. Normal roommates could do that without the kitchen feeling like all the oxygen had been bought by someone else. But Elise did not move away immediately. Neither did I. Then she said very quietly, You're past day 5. I am. 2 more and you win nothing. That seems unfair. You get continued housing. Powerful incentive. She looked up at me and the humor in her expression faded into something more careful. I'm not easy to live with. I noticed, she blinked, then laughed once. You're supposed to argue. I'm not easy either. You put plates in the wrong cabinet once and looked personally betrayed when I corrected you. That cabinet was misleading. You snore. I have received conflicting reports. From whom? People less observant than you. Her smile disappeared slowly, not because she was upset, because we both heard the line become too close to flirting. She rolled back a few inches. Good night, Owen. Good night, Elise. She started toward her room, then stopped in the hallway. Without turning around, she said, The 7th day is usually when they start looking for reasons. Reasons to leave? Reasons why they're not the bad guy for leaving. I dried my hands on a towel. And what do they usually pick? She was quiet. Then she said, That I'm too much. The words hung there. Not dramatic, just old. I turned off the faucet. You are a lot, I said. Her shoulders went still. But so far, I continued, most of it is interesting. She turned then, slowly. The look on her face was hard to read, hurt and hope and suspicion all fighting for the same small space. Then she said, You shouldn't say things like that if you're going to leave. I know. And? I looked at her. And I'm still not planning my exit. For a second, she looked like she wanted to believe me. That was the part that got me. Not that she doubted me, that she still wanted not to. Then a sharp metallic sound came from the hallway outside our apartment. Elise's face changed immediately. The elevator. A buzz. A scrape. Then silence. She looked toward the door, jaw tight. That better not be what I think it is, she said. I opened the apartment door and looked into the hall. The elevator display was dark. A handwritten sign had been taped over the button. Out of order. Behind me, Elise went completely still. And I understood before she said a word that day 7 had just arrived early. Elise stared at the dark elevator display like it had personally betrayed her. I stood in the hallway reading the handwritten sign again because apparently my brain thought repetition might make it less stupid. Out of order, no date, no estimate, no apology. Just 4 words taped over the button like accessibility was a weather event. Behind me, Elise's voice came flat. Of course. I turned. She had rolled into the doorway, one hand on the frame, expression locked down so tightly it almost looked calm. Almost. I'll call management, I said. I already know what they'll say. Let's make them say it anyway. Her eyes flicked to mine. That earned me something. Not gratitude, not trust. A small delay in judgment, maybe. I called the emergency maintenance number on the lobby notice. A man answered after 6 rings with the exhausted voice of someone who had chosen the wrong profession and blamed tenants for it. Elevator's out, I said. Building 3, 3rd floor. Yeah, we got the notice. What's the repair time? Company's been contacted. That's not a time. Elise watched me from the doorway, the man sighed. Probably tomorrow. Elise laughed once, not funny, sharp. I looked at her. She held out her hand for the phone. I gave it to her without a word. That mattered. She noticed. This is Elise Hart in 3C, she said. I use a wheelchair. I have work scheduled tomorrow morning, medical supplies being delivered, and I cannot leave my apartment without a working elevator. The man's tone changed only a little. Ma'am, I understand the inconvenience. No, she said. You don't. Inconvenience is when the vending machine eats $1. This is access to my home. Silence. Then he said, We'll update residents when we know more. Elise closed her eyes. I saw her hand tighten around the phone. For 1 second, I thought she might throw it. Instead, she said, Put that in writing. What? Email me that the only elevator in the building is out and you have no repair timeline. Another silence. Then, suddenly, he had a better sentence. I'll contact the service company again. Good. She ended the call and handed me the phone. Her face stayed hard, but her breathing wasn't. I leaned one shoulder against the hallway wall. Well, that was educational. She looked at me. Don't. Don't what? Make this cute. I straightened. Fair. This isn't cute, I said. It's a building failure. That stopped her. Only for a second, but it stopped her. She looked away toward the dead elevator. My fitting is at 10. The adaptive jacket client? Her eyes cut back to me. You remembered. You had the red fabric on the table. You called it the finally warm but not ugly jacket. I say many brilliant things. You do. She looked tired suddenly, more than angry. I can reschedule. You can. I hate rescheduling. I figured. I hate sending the email. I hate the part where I have to sound gracious about a building trapping me upstairs. I hate that some woman who finally found a designer who actually understands her shoulders will get another little reminder that the world makes plans and then forgets bodies like ours exist. That was the thing under the elevator. Not just her. Everyone she carried with her when she worked. I said, What do you need? She stared at me. Not like she didn't hear, like she didn't trust the question yet. I clarified. Not what do you want me to do, what do you need? Her jaw shifted. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then she said, My laptop, the client files, the red fabric, measuring kit. I can at least offer a video consult and overnight the first mock-up if she wants. Okay. And I need to not be told this is manageable. I won't. And I need you not to look at me like I'm tragic. I'm mostly looking at the elevator like it owes me money. Her mouth twitched despite herself. Fine, she said. Bring the red fabric. For the next hour, we turned the living room into a studio. I moved nothing without asking. She directed from the table, sharp and precise, and I followed instructions like my lease depended on it. Red fabric near the lamp, laptop angled away from the window glare, measuring kit on the left, notebook below the blue line. Coffee within reach, but not close enough to attack the patterns. At one point, I placed scissors on the wrong side. Elise looked at them, then at me. Are you trying to sabotage the garment industry? I've always hated sleeves. Apologize to sleeves. I'm sorry, sleeves. She shook her head, but she smiled. The video consult started at 10:15. Her client, a woman named Priya, appeared on screen from Seattle and immediately said, Elevator? Elise sighed. Elevator. Priya said, Burn the building. I'm considering legal alternatives first. I stayed in the kitchen, out of frame, pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. For 40 minutes, Elise was not the woman who had warned me I wouldn't last a week. She was calm, funny, exacting, brilliant. She talked about seams that wouldn't bunch under straps, magnetic closures that didn't look medical, shoulder room, temperature, dignity, how clothing should not announce the problem it had been designed to solve. At one point, Priya said, "You're the first person who didn't make me feel like I was asking for too much." Elise went quiet. Then she said, "You're not asking for too much. You're asking for the world to stop being lazy." I stood in the kitchen holding a mug I had forgotten to drink from and thought, dangerously, there she is. Not inspiring, not fragile, not difficult. Just Elise. After the call, she rolled back from the table and pressed both hands over her face. I stayed where I was. "Do you want silence or food?" I asked. Her voice came muffled. "Violence. I can offer takeout." "Close enough." I ordered burgers from the place downstairs and went to meet the delivery because the elevator was still dead. When I came back up the stairs, management had taped a second notice beside the elevator. Service expected tomorrow afternoon. I stood there long enough to feel something in me go cold. When I walked into the apartment, Elise saw my face. "No," she said. I handed her the food first, then told her. She didn't explode. That was worse. She put the burger down carefully, rolled to the window, and looked out at the street below like it belonged to other people. "The last one left after this," she said. I didn't ask who. I knew. The elevator broke for 2 days. He tried to be good about it. First day, he brought food. Second day, he started saying things like, "I just feel trapped too." She laughed quietly. "In my apartment. With my life." I said nothing. He wasn't evil. That almost made it worse. He just looked at me one morning and realized love was less romantic when it had logistics. I walked closer, stopping a few feet behind her. "I'm not him." "I know," she said. Then softer. "That's the problem." I didn't understand at first. She turned her chair slowly. Her eyes were bright, but she wasn't crying. "You're not making speeches," she said. "You're not pretending this is easy. You're not acting like staying makes you noble." Her voice lowered. "You're making it harder to protect myself from wanting you to stay." Everything in the apartment went still. Rain moved down the window behind her, the takeout cooled on the table. I should have said something careful. Instead, I said the honest thing. "I already want to." Her breath caught. Not dramatically. Just enough. Before either of us could move, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Then Elise's phone buzzed too. She looked at the screen. Her face changed. I stepped closer. "What?" She turned the phone toward me. A message from a saved contact named Damon. "Heard the elevator's out again." "New roommate still pretending he can handle it?" Elise's hand tightened around the phone. And I realized day 7 hadn't just arrived early. It had brought a witness. Damon. I knew the name before Elise said it. Not because she had told me, because there are names that arrive with weight. Names people save in their phones because deleting them feels dramatic, but seeing them still ruins the room. Elise stared at the message. Heard the elevator's out again. New roommate still pretending he can handle it? I looked from the screen to her face. "Do you want to answer?" She blinked. That question seemed to matter. Not, "Should I answer him for you?" Not, "Who is this guy?" Not, "Let me fix it." Just, "Do you want to answer?" Elise's fingers loosened around the phone. "No," she said. Then, after a second, "Yes." I waited. She typed 3 words. "Don't contact me." Then she blocked him. Clean, quiet, the kind of boundary that looked simple only if you ignored how much it had probably cost her to build. I nodded. Efficient. Her mouth twitched. I considered adding punctuation. Dangerous escalation. Exactly. For a few minutes, we ate in the living room with the broken elevator notice still sitting in the hallway like a bad smell. Elise picked at her fries. I pretended not to monitor her mood, which probably meant I was monitoring it badly. Then someone knocked. Not at our door. At the apartment door across the hall first. A voice outside said, Sorry, wrong one. Elise went still. I knew before he knocked again. This time on 3C. Elise closed her eyes. Damon. I stood, but I didn't move toward the door. Do you want me to open it? She took a breath. No. She rolled to the door herself. I stayed back where she could see me, but he couldn't use my presence as the main event. She opened it. A man stood in the hallway holding a paper grocery bag like a prop. He was handsome in an effortless, expensive way. Good hair, good shoes, the kind of smile that had probably worked too often and aged badly because of it. Elise, he said, softening his voice. Hey. She didn't move. I blocked you. I figured. He lifted the bag. I brought a few things, since the elevator's out. I didn't ask. I know, I just thought. No, she said, you didn't. Damon's eyes flicked past her and found me. There it was. The assessment. New man, new threat, new opportunity to pretend concern was still ownership. You must be Owen, he said. I am, he smiled. Good luck. Elise's hand tightened on the doorframe. I said nothing. Not because I didn't want to, because this was Elise's door. Damon looked back at her. I'm not trying to start anything. You showed up after I blocked you. I was worried. No, she said. You were curious. His smile slipped. Just a little. Elise, come on. The elevator breaks, some new guy moves in, and you think I'm not going to check? You lost the right to check when you left. He glanced at me again. Is this for his benefit? No, that's the strange part. Her voice stayed level, but I could hear the shake underneath. This is for mine. Damon shifted the grocery bag in his arms. You always do this. Do what? Turn everything into a test. Elise laughed once, hard, short. There it is. He looked irritated now, less polished. I tried, Elise. The room behind me seemed to go colder. She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was quieter. No, you liked trying. There's a difference. Damon opened his mouth. She kept going. You liked the version where you were patient and modern and impressive because you dated a woman in a wheelchair and didn't act weird about it at parties. Her eyes stayed on his. But when the elevator broke, when plans got complicated, when my body made your life less spontaneous, you started acting like I had tricked you. He looked away first. That was satisfying. Not enough, but some. I was overwhelmed, he said. I know. His eyes came back to hers. And you were allowed to be, she said. But you made me feel like I owed you an apology for having a life that required planning. The grocery bag crinkled in his hands. He looked smaller now, less villain, more man who had done damage and preferred the version where he was only confused. I'm sorry, he said. Elise looked at him for a long moment, then she nodded once. I believe you. Relief crossed his face. Too early. And you still need to leave, she said. His face closed. Seriously? Yes. Because of him? No. Her voice sharpened. Because I said leave. That was the moment I wanted to kiss her, not because she looked fragile, because she didn't. Because she was fierce and tired and exact and wounded and still standing in the center of her own life, refusing to make her boundaries softer so a man could swallow it. Damon set the grocery bag down outside the door. Keep it, he muttered. No, Elise said. He stared. She looked over her shoulder at me. Owen, I stepped forward. Yeah? Would you put that bag back in his hands? I picked it up, handed it to Damon and said, she said no. That was all. No threat, no speech, no masculine performance, just the sentence. Damon took it, then he left. Elise closed the door. For a second, she just sat there, palm flat against the wood. I stayed where I was. Finally, she whispered, I hated that. I know. I also needed it. I know. She turned her chair slowly. Her eyes were wet now, not broken, just full. You didn't jump in. You didn't need me to. No. She looked at me. But you stayed close enough in case I asked. That sentence did something to my chest. I'm learning the rules. They're not rules. What are they? She smiled through the tears. Me? That was the simplest and most complicated answer she could have given. Outside, the hallway was quiet again. Inside, the elevator was still broken, the takeout was cold, and day 7 had turned into something neither of us could joke our way around anymore. I stepped closer, stopping a few feet away. Elise! She looked up. I don't want to be Damon with better timing. You're not. You don't know that yet. Her expression softened. No, but I know what you did today. What? You let me be angry without making it your performance. You let me need help without making it my whole identity. And when I said no, you treated it like a complete sentence. I didn't know what to do with that, so I told the truth. I want to kiss you. Her breath caught. There it was. No metaphor, no roommate joke, no broken elevator to hide inside. Just the thing. Elise looked at me for a long time. Then she rolled closer. Not all the way. Enough. I want that too, she whispered. Then she stopped. But not because you passed some test? I know. And not because you feel proud of yourself for staying. I know. And not because I'm lonely. I know. Her eyes searched mine. Then why? I crouched slowly in front of her chair, not touching her, bringing myself to her eye level because I wanted the answer to land where it belonged. Because when I'm with you, I said, I don't feel like staying is something I'm proving. I feel like leaving would be the stupidest thing I could do. Elise closed her eyes. One tear slipped free. Then she opened them and said, almost angrily, that was a very unfairly good answer. I can ruin it with a joke. Don't you dare. So I didn't. I leaned in slowly. She leaned in too. And just before our mouths touched, the lights in the hallway flickered. A mechanical hum rolled through the wall. The elevator display beeped back to life. Elise froze, then laughed once, breathless and disbelieving. You have got to be kidding me. The elevator doors opened outside with a clean, smug chime. Day 7 had ended. The apartment was free again, and Elise was still close enough to kiss. The elevator doors opened in the hallway with the confidence of a machine that had chosen the most dramatic possible moment to become useful again. Elise and I stayed exactly where we were. Me crouched in front of her close enough that I could see the small tear still resting near her jaw. Both of us suspended between the thing we had almost done and the world suddenly becoming accessible again. She stared toward the hallway, then back at me. Well, she said, voice unsteady. That's rude. I laughed softly. The tension broke just enough for both of us to breathe, but not enough to disappear. I stayed where I was, at eye level. Do you want to try that again? I asked. Her eyes narrowed. The elevator? The almost kiss. Her mouth parted. Then she looked away, smiling despite herself. You are much bolder at floor level. I found it grounding. That earned me a real laugh. Then her smile softened. No, she said. The word landed quietly. I nodded and began to stand, but she reached out and caught my wrist. Not hard, just enough. I mean, not like this, she said. Not right after Damon, not right after the elevator. Not when my emotions are running around the apartment with scissors. I sat back slightly. Okay. She watched me. I could tell she was waiting for the disappointment, the pressure, the little flash of wounded male pride she had probably seen too many times from men who heard not now as an insult instead of information. So I gave her exactly what she had given Damon, a complete sentence. Okay, I repeated. Her fingers loosened around my wrist, but she didn't let go immediately. You're making this very difficult, she whispered. Respecting boundaries? No, being attractive about it. I looked down, smiling. That was dangerously close to a compliment. Don't get used to it. Too late. The elevator was fixed, but neither of us went anywhere that night. We ate cold burgers at the table because reheating them felt like ambition neither of us had earned. Elise made fun of the way I folded napkins. I made fun of her emergency pen system. She accused me of being anti-organization. I accused her of running a stationery cartel. The apartment felt different, Not solved, not simple, just honest. The next morning was day 7. I woke up early, not because I had somewhere to be, but because the room still smelled like cardboard and I wanted to finish unpacking before Elise could accuse me of living like a fugitive. When I came out, she was already at the kitchen island. Her mug sat below the blue tape line. Beside it was another mug. Mine. She had made coffee. I looked at it, then at her. Is this a roommate evaluation? Yes. How am I doing? She took a sip from her mug, face serious. Technically, you lasted a week. Technically, you still have 3 boxes in your room, you apologize to Sleeves, and you have an alarming relationship with takeout. All fair. But, she said, looking down into her coffee, you didn't leave. The joking left the kitchen. I stepped closer, stopping on the other side of the island. No, I said, I didn't. She nodded once, like she needed to hear it said plainly. We didn't become a couple that day. That mattered. A lesser version of the story would have turned day 7 into a grand romantic victory. Like staying through one broken elevator and one ex-boyfriend at the door meant I understood everything about loving Elise Hart. I didn't. I understood more than I had on day 1. That was all. That was enough to keep learning. Over the next few months, the apartment became ours in small, ridiculous ways. I learned which cabinet layouts made sense and which ones were sacred. Elise learned that I cooked pasta like a man raised by vague instructions and corrected me with unnecessary severity. I stopped asking if she needed help and started asking better questions. She stopped warning me away every time something got complicated, though sometimes I still saw the instinct cross her face. Damon texted once from a new number. Elise blocked him without flinching. The building management replaced the elevator service company after Elise filed a formal complaint so precise, I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Her adaptive jacket client loved the first mock-up, then ordered 2 more, then referred 3 people. Elise pretended not to be thrilled and failed badly. One night, after a long day, I came home to find her asleep at the table beside fabric samples and a half-empty cup of tea. I stood there for a second, looking at the woman who had told me I wouldn't last a week. Then I moved the tea away from the laptop, turned off the desk lamp, and left a blanket within reach. Not over her. Within reach. The next morning, she said, "You didn't blanket ambush me." I considered it. Wise restraint? I'm growing. She looked at me for a long second, then she said, I noticed. That was how we began, not with rescue, not with pity. Not with me proving I was different by making her life my performance. We began with coffee below the blue line, a rolled-up hallway rug, block numbers, late dinners, better questions, and the slow, terrifying realization that staying is not noble when it starts feeling like home. The first time Elise let me kiss her, it was months later, in the kitchen, after we had argued for 20 minutes about whether a chair was a hostile object or just badly placed. She rolled. Closer, still irritated, still beautiful, still entirely herself. Then she said, "For the record, I didn't let you last a week." No, I allowed a probationary extension. Generous, extremely. And when she leaned in, there was no test in it. Just choice. A year later, we moved into a better apartment. Same city, better elevator, wider bathroom, lower counters. A landlord with the healthy fear of a woman who knew tenant law and owned labeled folders. We built the place together, not perfectly. Nothing with Elise was perfect. It was better than perfect. It was specific. Her work table by the window, my bookshelves along the wall, no hallway rug. 2 mugs below the blue line, even though the new counter didn't need one. She kept the tape anyway. Tradition, she said. Years later, whenever people asked how we got together, Elise usually said, he survived the trial period. I'd say, barely. Then she would look at me with that sharp, green-eyed smile and say, still under review. But the truth was this, I didn't fall in love with Elise because she needed me. She didn't. I fell in love because she let me stay close enough to know the real version of her life, and the funny parts, the difficult parts, the beautiful parts, the inconvenient parts, and trusted me not to turn any of it into a reason to leave. What would you have done if your new roommate warned you, That you wouldn't last a week living with her? And have you ever met someone who pushed people away not because they wanted to be alone, but because they were tired of watching people leave? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.